India and the United States on June 5th of 2023 announced the conclusion of a new roadmap for the future defense industrial cooperation with the goal of fast-tracking technology, cooperation and co-production in critical areas such as air combat and land mobility systems, intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance, munitions, and undersea domain in a renewed push for deepening collaborations in the sector during the delegation-level talks between the Defence Minister of India Rajnath Singh with the US Secretary of Defence Lloyd Austin in New Delhi on June 5th of 2023, according to the Indian news media agency ANI. Both sides will identify the opportunities for the co-development of new technologies and co-productions of existing and new systems and facilitate the increased collaborations between the defense and their startups, the Indian Defence Minister said after the talks. The talks covered a raft of areas, including manufacturing GE's 414 fighter jet engines in the country through the transfer of technology, buying high-tech drones from the US for the Indian military, the situation along the line of actual control in the eastern Ladakh, where India has been locked in a border war with China over 3 years now, and a free and a rule-bound Indo-Pacific region where the China is pushing for a greater influence, said an Indian official tracking the dialogue, according to the Indian news media Hindustan Times. The deal to build GE-414 engines in India is said to be announced during the Prime Minister of India's visit to the US from June 21 to June 24, according to the Indian news media Hindustan Times. The engine will power the light combat aircraft, the LCA Tejas Mk2, and other indigenous fighter jets, and that plans to be developed including the 5.1 Gen Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft at the AMCA and the twin-engine deck-based fighters. India is also on the course to buy the Predator drone from the US for the 3 services, and discussions are on to finalize the numbers needed. The possible drone purchase came up during the talks, said the officials. The earlier plan was to buy 30 such drones, 10 each for the Navy, Air Force and the Indian Army, in a deal estimated to be worth $3 billion. In 2020, the Indian Navy leased a pair of MQ-9B Sea Guardian drones, an unmanned variant of the Predator manufactured by the General Atomics. The MQ-9Bs have helped the Indian Navy keep a close watch on the Indian Ocean at a time when it has stepped up the surveillance in the regions to check China's ambitions. Removing the roadblocks to industrial cooperation was discussed during the talks between India and US. The two sides are also decided to initiate the negotiations on a new talk arrangements that will enable them to access each other's industrial resources to address unanticipated supply chain disruption to meet their security needs. Closer industry-industry partnership and creating resilient supply chains are critical, said the Indian officials, according to the Indian news media Hindustan Times. The initiative, which will be launched by the US-India Business Council on the June 21, is designed to complement the existing government-to-government collaborations by promoting the innovative partnership between the US and Indian companies, investors, startup accelerators, and academic research institutions, the US statement said. Austin and Singh of both the countries of India and US also committed to strengthen the operational collaborations across all the military services to support India's leading role as a security provider in the Indo-Pacific. Both sides reviewed the robust and multifaceted bilateral defense cooperation activities and agreed to maintain the momentum of engagement, said in the Indian government statement. They also discussed regional security issues given their shared interest in maintaining peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region, according to the Indian news media Hindustan Times. So what do you think of India is getting so much closer to US defense cooperation and collaborations? Will India get its more hands on deck on the latest technologies of the US defense? Or this will be the start of a new defense contracts and cooperations? The Indian Defence Minister to take an army proposal for the Indian Army to make light tanks to deploy the India-China border. This will be a proposal for buying 354 light tanks, according to the Indian media. The Indian Army has issued specifications for its future light tank, which has been named as Zorawar. The tank has been named after the general who led the multiple victories in the Tibet, which is now controlled by the Chinese PLA. The Indian Army officials have said that to overcome the limitation faced by the medium battle tanks and equip the Indian Army for all the contingencies in the high altitude areas, the marginal terrain, and the island territories besides its utilizations in the plains, semi-deserts, and deserts, it is now important to induct the light combat tanks. The Indian Army had to induct a considerable number of T-72 and T-90 tanks in operation areas, gaining tactical surprises over the adversary and thereby forcing the adversary on a back foot. However, the tanks were primarily designed for the operations in plains and desert terrains, having their limitations when employed in the high altitude areas. They face a similar handicap when employed in the marginal terrain of Run-of Kutch of India, an official said to the Indian news media agency. Amid the ongoing conflict with China, the Indian Armed Forces are now going to acquire Pralay ballistic missiles which can hit the targets from 150 to 500 kilometers along with the light combat tanks. The proposal moved by the Indian Defence Forces is at the advanced stage and is scheduled to be taken up for the clearance during the high-level meeting this week, according to the Indian news media. The proposal is also important as it comes at the time when the Indian forces are working on the creation of the rocket force, which has been in discussion at the highest levels in the Indian Defence Ministry for a long time. Recently, the Indian Navy Chief Admiral stated that they were already working on the creations of the rocket force to counter enemies on the border. The missiles was successfully tested twice on 2 consecutive days last year in December, and since then, the forces are working towards its acquisitions and induction. With a range 150 to 500 kilometers, Pralay is powered by a solid propellant rocket motor and other new technologies. The missile guidance system includes state-of-the-art navigation and integrated avionics. Pralay is a quasi-ballistic surface-to-surface missile. The advanced missile has been developed in a way to able to defeat the interceptor missiles. It can change its path after covering a certain range in mid-air. As such, missiles have a tremendous capability to warn troops to destroy or take out enemy air defense sites or similar high-value targets. The Pralay missiles, along with the BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles, would be the longest-range tactical weapon system in the Defence Forces of India, as long as the range strategic weapons are controlled by the Strategic Forces Command. So what do you think? Will India be inducting so fast with the tanks and the missile system to cover its entire China border and the Pakistan border with India? If you like this video, please give a like and a subscribe. And thanks for watching. This is WC Daily. Think big, think different. Bye.